As we honor our students, it's kind of got me to thinking, and I kind of shifted here about a couple of weeks ago what I was going to speak about today. But I don't want you to tune me out just because I said we're honoring and talking about our graduate. That's perfect. Our graduating students. Because I think the message that the Holy Spirit's got for us today applies to all of us. It applies to how we see ourselves as God has a purpose for us and releases us, but he releases us with his Holy Spirit. He never leaves us alone. So today we're going to talk about being released with purpose. Released with purpose. Are my graduates still in here? They already bailed on me. Some of them are working there with their families. I can't tell. There's some. Anyway. But kind of the focus we're going to look at today is this. It says God does not shape us to stay where we are. Let me say that again. God does not shape us to stay where we are. Just like we talked about during transition. When the children of Israel crossed over the Jordan, they built an altar to the Lord to celebrate. And they actually took the stones from the river. The river that their trial had gone through. They took the stones and built the altar to the Lord. But then Moses said, we can't stay here. We've got to keep moving forward into what God's called us. So he prepares us to be released into his purpose. He goes with us when we are sent. Psalms chapter 127, verse 3. Reading out of the NIV, it says this. It says, children are a heritage from the Lord. They're an offspring, a reward from him. How many have had those opportunities where they've had to read this verse to themselves to remind them not to strangle their child at some point in time? Like arrows in the hand of a warrior. Cole, will you help me out? Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. I love the fact that they said that there are children born in one's youth. So Katie and I, sure, why not? I need that first. You can just set that down for me. Katie and I, we got married pretty much right out of her high school, and I'd been out a couple years. And we figured let's do the smart thing and not bring children to suffer under our leadership right yet into the world. And so we waited a little while, and but we're still relatively young when we had Claire. We were still in our 20s. And Katie always said, we said, I think we want 3 or 4 kids. She wanted 3, I wanted 4, because I wasn't giving birth to them, right? But she had a magic number that she says, I will not have kids after X age. And couple that with giving birth to Carter Capshaw, we knew that we were done because she had reached that magical age. And Carter Capshaw was, Carter Capshaw. But children are a gift, and it says, have them in your youth. It says it's a gift when you're young, right? Because as we know, as we get older, it gets a little bit more difficult, one, to keep up with them and their schedules and all of their things. I thought it was hard keeping up with all of Claire's schedules until I had 2 boys, 2 teenagers going on at the same time. And it's very, very difficult, especially in the fall with band/sports seasons, Carter's archery season, everything going on, that to keep up with the kids. So having them in your youth is a design of the Lord, amen. But then there are those of us as we get a little older that are blessed with children. Maybe there's some of us that have been physically unable to give birth to our own children. We have our worship pastor and his wife at our Lewisburg campus, Austin and Hannah Simmons, who were unable to conceive and have their own. And through divine intervention and divine connection, that they just recently adopted little Shepherd Simmons, their brand new baby right out of the hospital. So it's incredible. He's a beautiful little kid. But God ordains opportunities for us to guide and direct the next generation. Joshua 1:9 tells us, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Now, we tell this to our kids when they're graduating, but I honestly think we say it to them, and it's meant for us as much. Because mom, dad, it's hard to let them go. I know my sheltered little bear, my little Claire bear, when that time came and she had said, Dad, this is the college that I know God wants me to go to. And I'll be honest with you, he set that in Katie and I's heart when we visited as well. We knew that was the place. And we were fired up. I think we went in the spring, and then that fall, she moved down there. We moved her down there, and we unloaded. We dropped her off. And I cried like a baby most of the way from Lakeland to Ocala. Because even though I knew that's where God had called her, quit shaking your head. Even though I knew that's where God had called her, it still didn't make it easy. my baby in a world that was out to get her. But then the promise of this, it said, hey, Dad, be strong and courageous because I'm with her. As much as Dad wants to protect her, I pale in comparison to what the Holy Spirit has his protection over her. So that was honoring and confirming to me. But Psalms 127, see, it gives us the image of God's protection and God's call, God's purpose for our life. But then Joshua 1:9 gives us the promise that he'll never leave us. And that's so comforting to us. Our first point here today is God shapes before he sends. So I brought my setup here. I like to call myself a hunter. I have a rifle, some shotguns. I have my bow, my arrow, my bow and arrow. I've yet to kill anything with it, so I don't think I'm actually a hunter until I actually kill something with it. But I have sat in the woods and gotten ticks and froze to death in 17-degree weather on a friend's farm. So I think maybe I've qualified enough, except for bringing actually some meat from the freezer. Katie wasn't too thrilled about me adding guns to the house several years ago. But then when I told her the perspective of having meat that we didn't have to go to Walmart or Kroger or wherever and buy, she was fired up about it. I've yet to deliver on that end of the promise, but we're still working on it, and I still keep buying toys. So, I think I'm winning at life. But we see an arrow, and it's just this common arrow. But this arrow, what I love about this arrow, this particular setup here is, as you can tell, I'm not exactly of large stature. And when I bought my setup, when I got all this, the arrows, every single arrow in the box that I chose from was identical. They were all about 40-something inches long, huge. This is clearly not that long. But then the bow was set to me. The bow was set to my draw weight. The bow was set to my height, to my build. And then the arrow had to be shaped and cut to fit my size. So every single arrow in that box started out the same, but then when it was selected and it was appointed and purchased by me, then the craftsman began to cut the arrow. But he didn't just randomly cut the arrow. He cut the arrow to my measurements, to my standard, because this arrow, see, in order for it to be effective, this is a field point, but it's got a little bit of a tip on it, and it can definitely do some damage. But without being properly set to my message calls him the warrior. I'll just call myself the hunter. But before being set to the hunter, it has to be shaped to fit his purpose. So see, that's what God's doing with us, guys. Just like this arrow, he begins to shape us here. Proverbs 22, we read this last week. Proverbs 22 in verse 6, it says, start children off in the way that they shall go, and they'll not depart from it when they grow old. Jeremiah 1:5 tells us, before I formed you in my mother's womb, I knew you, and you were set apart. Ephesians chapter 2 says, for we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works. Amen. But see, the point from all of that is this, that God has been shaping you for more than just survival. Parents, as we let these kids go, I mean, we've got them going to colleges, to trade schools. We've got military. We've got ministry. I love Pastor Dylan's prophetic words over Claire, calling her Pastor Claire. Hallelujah. Let it be. From your lips to God's ears. Or just give her a job that pays. Hallelujah. But God has been shaping Claire. God has been shaping Hannah. God has been shaping Sophia. God has been shaping Grayson. God has been shaping Dawson. God has been shaping Olivia. Before this Sunday. Before they were even born, God began a purpose in their life. And see, we think about stuff like this. It's like, well, I don't have kids in this situation. God's been shaping a purpose in your life from day one. And maybe he's began to speak to you about that purpose. And there's all the things that we talked about, our schedules, our time, our otherworldly commitments, that we've given precedent over what the purpose that God has shaped us for. I can remember when Katie and I were in Bible school, One of our professors, he got up in front of the class. I think it was one of our larger, the whole class, grade level year, in one big lecture class, 300 or 400 people, I say kids, 300 or 400 people in that same class. And he got up there and he just said this simple statement. He goes, if you can do anything else in life other than ministry and be happy, go do it. Because if God has not shaped you for this purpose, it will be difficult and it may even be a failure. And the last thing that God wants is for you to think that you're following His purpose or you're doing something to appease mom or dad and then it not be God's purpose for your life. Let me encourage you. God needs good Christian business people. God needs good Christian teachers. God needs good Christian garbage men. God needs good Christian retail workers. God needs good Christian politicians. Just as much as He needs another pastor or preacher. Because your influence is not your influence. It's God's platform for His purpose. So before God releases you into what's next, whether you're coming out of high school, coming out of college, or He had something stirring on the inside of you, He shapes you through where you're at. Now, the second thing, God aims us before He releases us. I joke with Pastor Stephen Morgan a lot of times. He likes to, he'll see an idea or he'll have an idea about something, and the next thing you know, we're implementing it either across the campuses or at least at Columbia. He's finding out real quick. I'll give pushback sometimes. But I'll look at him and we'll joke with him all the time. And I say this to him, and he goes, no, you're absolutely right. But he's guilty of doing this ready, fire, aim. Well, this is great. Here's what we're going to do. Blah, 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 blah. Here's how we do it. Oh, man, we should have done this, 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 and this. But God's not that way because God aims us before He releases us. See, Proverbs chapter 3 tells us, it says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not where? To your own understanding. But what? In all your ways, acknowledge Him. I love what the NIV says. It says, in all your ways, submit to Him. And what? He will make your path straight. So one of the things I did when I got into to archery, and Carter shoots old school, and his is not, I'm going to be honest with you, other than pointing it, my bow does most of the work. Carter's still old school. He's got to aim. He has no sight system on his. His is just the tip of his arrow in his eye and repetition. He's a much better shot than I am. But what I love about this is when I went and I bought it, I didn't run out and immediately get in a tree stand and go shooting for deer. No. I spent quite a bit of time in our backyard with Carter shooting at a target. That target, as a matter of fact. Shooting at a couple other targets that we had. I would go to the range and I would shoot there. I shot a whole bunch more times before I ever even walked into a field. Why? Because God's looking for obedience and direction a lot more before He is action. Let's look at Daniel here real quick. If you guys remember Daniel in the Bible, when the children of Israel were taken or were exiled into Babylon, and Babylonians took control and made them subservient, Daniel was put into a situation to where the culture and the lifestyle that the Babylonians had were different from that the Israelites had. And Daniel, because of his purpose, because of his direction, because of what he was created to do, he said, and we'll just read it here, in verse 8 of chapter 1 of Daniel, it says, but Daniel resolved what? Not to defile himself. See, Daniel was released into Babylon, but Babylon did not get to define him. We release our kids. I'm releasing Claire into this world, but the world does not get to define who Claire is. See, new freedoms require old convictions. That's why as parents, when we send our kids out, we rely on scriptures like, we trust that His word will not return void. His promises are yes and amen. See, a surrendered life may not always know the next step, but it does surrendered life may not always know the next step, but it trusts the one holding the bow. See, I can have my arrow. I can have my bow. I can have them perfectly tuned, but that right there is pretty useless unless a deer runs through the sanctuary and falls directly on the arrow. But when I tell the story, I killed it from 100 yards out, through trees, on a blind shot, perfect through the heart. Just know that. You should see some of the fish I've caught. But that in its own situation, the arrow that's perfectly shaped to me, the bow that is perfectly tuned for my shooting style, is pointless without the one pulling the bow. And as parents, we oftentimes will use this example as the children being the arrow in our quiver, right? We're the bow, but it's God that releases us. So our faith is not in our abilities, it's in the one holding the bow. See, a release from parents' perspective, or just in our lives, a release for a purpose that God has called us to, it requires faith. See, the tension when you pull this bow back, that potential energy, we talked about National Signing Day and rejoicing over these seniors. That tension is where the power comes from. So there's tension when we release our children into the world. There's tension when something different is being stirred on the inside of us and we're forced, or we know we've got to get out of what's comfortable or what we've done most of our lives. But when we've got a call of God upon our life, that tension will never be released until we submit to it. But the bow only works, like we said, when there's tension. And I love the fact that there has to be tension before the arrow can ever take flight. I was talking to Jeremiah earlier, and he said, "Hey, you got a crossbow?" I'm like, "I'm working on this one, man. Those things are way too powerful for me." But a crossbow carries I think it's like 30-something times more power than a standard compound bow. We're trying to serve the same purpose, but there's more potential, more power behind a stronger weapon. But all of that's dependent upon the person, in that case, pulling the trigger or releasing the bow. And that's where we rely on the Holy Spirit. Sometimes it feels like life's pulling you backward. But when you're set and you're in the hands of God, that tension just gives you an opportunity for preparation. And preparation, my friends, is never wasted time. Doesn't matter your age. Let's look at an example here in the Bible. 1 Samuel chapter 1, we see Hannah. Hannah prayed to the Lord for a child. Hannah prayed and sought the Lord. And the Lord honored her prayers and gave her Samuel. And then Samuel began to grow. And as he was born, the first thing Hannah did, it says, "God, you honored my prayers, so I give him back to you." Hannah said, "You honored my prayers, now I give you my child. I give you my child." And as we know, Samuel went on to do mighty, powerful things. But Hannah didn't stop loving Samuel when she released him, but she simply trusted God with him. Because people will talk to us, and I've had these conversations with people. "Well, I can't believe you just let Claire go do this and that, and I don't know." You know, we say, "Oh, Claire's a big girl. She's an adult." Blah blah. No, here's the truth of it, guys. I know that we have done everything that we can, and we've surrounded her, and we've brought her up in the admonition of the Lord, and we've put the word inside of her. And so now we have to trust God as she continues to grow and mature physically and spiritually to take care of her. We get the fun part now. We get to be Claire's friend and here when she needs us. But we trust God to guide, lead, and direct her now. We see it again with Moses. When Moses was just an infant, and his mother, Jochebed, when she was hiding him from those that were trying to kill the children, she hid him because she knew he had a purpose, a greater purpose, and she went to protect him. And then there comes a time in chapter 2 of Exodus, in verse 3, where she says this. She says, "But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him That phrase right there, when she could hide him no longer. Parents, I'm going to talk to you directly for just a second. There's going to come a time, maybe your senior's graduating, but there's going to come a time when you can protect them no longer. And you've got to trust them into the hands of the Lord. We know that Jochebed didn't just blindly put him in this basket and float him down the river, but she followed the obedience and the trusting in the Lord. And now we know obviously what Moses went on to do, correct? But here's the thing. There comes a time when you can't hold on to the one season anymore either. God brings us through seasons in our life all the time. You can't hide just in comfort anymore. Well, this is getting... You can't stay somewhere just because you know that everything's going to be comfortable. Maybe you can't stay in a job just because you know it's comfortable. You can't stay in a job that you know you can coast through because you know it like the back of your hand when God's beginning to tug at your heart. You know you can't stay in a ministry position when God's stirring you to do something a little out of your comfort zone. Or a lot out of your comfort zone. Because we get comfortable on the things of this world. Even in ministry. Even as the executive pastor of a decent-sized church. With a good financial income. Good security. Great programs for your kids. Great opportunities in a great city. But when God begins to stir, to stay in his will, you've got to be obedient to be released. That was for me, not you. But here's the tag. Faith, guys, is not just trusting God while you're holding on. Oftentimes, faith is found when you're willing to release. So I know this is what you guys have been waiting for. The women are like, oh, this is cool. This is cute. This is so neat. The guys are going, I want to see if he misses. You'll notice 2 holes in the target, as I made sure I could hit it. But guys, here's the danger with something like this. We can look at this example of releasing the arrow, even though we know it's the purpose that God's called us for. That target, literally speaking, is the purpose of this illustration this morning. But that target is not the destination. That target is the journey between the arrow, the bow, and the one that released it. So as you release your children, as you release your comforts, as you release your things in obedience to God, know this, that no matter what, what a great time for your release to fail, right? You gotta love it. But oftentimes, you know your purpose, you know your presence, but it just takes faith. Yeah, hit it. To release. I'm just sitting here going, dear Jesus, don't shoot it down the middle because it's going through that target. But I want you to hear this. God doesn't release you alone. If God's called it, God's ordained it, God will go with you. He says, the psalmist says, my word have I hidden in my heart that I might not sin against you. Parents, we do everything we can to train up our child in the way that they shall go. But as much as it is a step of faith for them to leave the nest, it's as much a step of faith for the parent to release them. So maybe this morning you're in here. You're struggling with something. You're struggling with the ability to obey and to release. Whether it's mom going, look at all the struggles. Look at all the dangers that lie before him or her. Look at everything the world's trying to bring up against him. Maybe you're in a career struggle. Maybe you're in a situation where everything's going great, But you know God's got more for you. God's got something different for you. God's got something better for you. But you're scared to make that jump. If that's you this morning, I want to encourage you. When you feel the Holy Spirit's tugging, know that he's not going to leave you alone. He's not going to call you out